Good morning, members of the press and the Bahamas. Yesterday, the Prime Minister laid out a clear, compelling argument for the strides his administration has achieved. The Davis administration has tackled unprecedented challenges head-on, steering our nation towards stability and growth. Our focus today is on reinforcing that message, detailing our accomplishments and outlining our path forward. Under the Davis administration, we have transitioned from a fiscal crisis to sound economic stability. The fiscal peril we inherited demanded tough, immediate action. Thanks to disciplined fiscal management, innovative policies, and the resilient spirit of the Bahamian people, bolstered by strategic international partnerships, we are now in a position of strength. The mid-year budget outlined our commitment to security, progress, and prosperity. It's a mid-year statement that prioritizes our citizens' security, economic stability, and national interests. When investing in areas that directly impact the lives of every Bahamian, from healthcare and education to infrastructure and environmental sustainability. This administration has launched several initiatives aimed at fostering economic growth, enhancing energy sustainability, and expanding educational opportunities. We've made significant investment in healthcare infrastructure and social programs directly contributing to our nation's resilience and prosperity. Allow me to highlight a few of these policies and initiatives that are currently underway, driving us toward these goals. We've launched a new energy policy aimed at expanding renewable energy through microgrids, emphasizing the engagement of local Bahamian firms and building local professional capacity. Our efforts to expand Bahamian ownership is ongoing, including significant support for entrepreneurs and small and medium enterprises, alongside a substantial expansion of affordable housing with the aim of moving hundreds of families into new homes by this summer. We're modernizing our touristic product and have invested in millions across our archipelago, backed by a major visibility and branding campaigns in key international markets. Significant strides are being made in educational reform, training, and school attendance. We've also prioritized health infrastructure, upgrading and expansion of technical and vocational training, including certifications at the high school level. In Grand Bahama, the Empowerment Micro Grant Program and a $1.5 billion investment in the pipeline are set to revitalize the local economy, alongside the initiatives aimed at fostering safety and making significant investments in agriculture, which include providing Bahamians with the land to cultivate, supporting Bahamian food producers, and revitalizing key agricultural facilities. On the global stage, the Prime Minister has been a vocal advocate for the Bahamas, addressing climate change, enhancing regional security, and ensuring fair treatment in international economic policies. The removal of the Bahamas from the EU's blacklist is a testament of these efforts, demonstrating the effectiveness of our foreign policy and the Prime Minister's resolve to defend and promote our national interests. These engagements are critical to securing partnerships, investments, and the support that the support that benefit the Bahamas. The Prime Minister's courage and dedication have earned him the nickname Brave, a testament of his resolve to do whatever it takes to defend the Bahamas here and abroad unapologetically. As we move forward, our administration remains focused on delivering measurable results, driving economic recovery, and enhancing the quality of life for all Bahamians. This administration is not just planning for the next election cycle, but we're building a future for the next generation of Bahamians. With that, I welcome the Financial Secretary, Simon Wilson, to provide an updated, in-depth look at our mid-year budget. His insight will further illustrate how our fiscal strategies are creating a foundation for a secure and prosperous future for all Bahamians. With that, we begin.
Good morning. So I want to start by first thanking the staff of the Ministry of Finance for all their efforts with respect to the mid-year budget. Their work really goes unnoticed, but it really, in times like this, you really appreciate their efforts. The mid-year budget reflected a strong, certainly from the government's perspective, a strong commitment to the fiscal goals laid out in the budget's communication of May 2023. revenue performed exceptionally well at 39.3% of the target. And as you will appreciate, our revenue, government revenue is very cyclical in nature, where the bulk of our revenue is collected in the second half of the year. We've held a line on expenditure. Recurring expenditure only grew by $8 million year-over-year comparison, and capital expenditure only grew by $17 million year-over-year comparison. So the GFF deficit actually reduced by $19 million year-over-year comparison. I know a lot has been said in the mid-year that our overall deficit target is in the mid-year is twice our annual deficit target. But you have to recognize the cyclical nature of our economy, our revenues, that these are stronger months, and our deficit target will go down in line to what the overall target is. It's important also to recognize our primary balance, which is really, in simple terms, the government's cash flow position improved considerably in the first 6 months. So our primary balance for this 6 months was 42.4, in comparison to the same period last year, only $3 million. So we have stronger cash flows, stronger revenues, expenditures being kept well in train. So overall, I think the mid-year really is a strong testament to the strength of the economy as well as the government's fiscal plans. Any questions?
You mentioned the deficit as you were speaking, and that we're coming into the stronger months, and the government anticipates that that will come down in the coming months. I know you also spoke to expenditure as well, but what exactly are you able to say, are you expecting to get that will help it to get in line, considering, like you said, it's, I think, almost double what was projected?
So if you look at the flows of expenditure and revenue, expenditure is pretty flat. Business license revenue is due March 31st. We get the bulk of our business license revenue between the second half of February and the end of March. We get the bulk of our property tax revenue, which are going to contribute to the reduction of the deficit. And if you notice in the day's paper, we have started the process of the power of sale for property tax, delinquent property tax. So if you looked at the day's paper, you'll see we have 77 undeveloped property for sale. We have 45 commercial property for sale. Every 2 weeks, we'll be doing that.
So yesterday, the Prime Minister also spoke to, my apologies, yesterday the Prime Minister also spoke to a tax avoidance scheme, as well as tobacco and rum smuggling, and that the government lost some hundreds of millions of dollars because of the tax avoidance schemes and the rum smuggling. Are we able to speak or say if the government how the government would recoup the money that was lost from these schemes and the smuggling? Is there a plan in place? I know he said that investigators are still looking into some other instances as well.
Yes, there is a plan in place, and so the scheme not only impacts government revenue, but it also impacts legitimate businesses. So what we realized was that legitimate importers of alcohol and tobacco saw a consistent decline in their sales. So we recoup it by discouraging persons from smuggling, and then people will purchase from legitimate importers and distributors who pay their taxes.
Do you think that will impact, though, any of the targets by the end of the fiscal year, considering, like we said, that those funds are lost?
So we claimed 2 months ago, we came upon a warehouse where we retrieved over $1 million in cash and goods. You know, that the secondary impact of that is tremendous, because it means that those products have to be purchased through legitimate means. So yes, they will have an impact.
administration has been often slammed for traveling excessively, right? And we see government's travel budget now increasing from over $500,000 to now over $2 million. Speak to that, right? Because there is now the deficit has been enlarged significantly, and government is still often slammed for, in the opposition's views and critics' views, traveling excessively.
Well, I think they give a comparison to the COVID period when there was no travel. All right. The reality is that we live on an island, and so to do business we have to travel. You know, we have to travel by airplane. We can't just hop in the car and drive someplace else. And so that's, you know, that's the reality.
So, in your estimation, the travel that we've been seeing and the increase that we've seen in the budget for,
The increased comparison to see, I think the issue is the increased comparison to what? The comparison has also unfortunately been to the COVID period where there was little or no travel. The reality is the travel is not extraordinary. Right? These are international meetings that we are required to attend to protect the interests of the country.
so there has been some criticism, again, bouncing back off of his question, questioning whether the Prime Minister is needed for some of the events, maybe I'll use, that he attends, or could it be that maybe PS can attend, or one of the ministers, or anyone else who may have
I can't speak
carriage
to
over
that.
it?
I can't speak to that. I can speak with in respect to the Ministry of Finance, for example. In the case of the Ministry of Finance, the Minister of Finance or a political representative is required at least 10 meetings a year. Required. IMF meetings. You're required to be at IDB meetings. You're required to be at CDB meetings. This is outside of the meetings required by the technical officials. All right?
So, Mr. Wilson, I know you mentioned delinquent properties. How much money is projected by the sale of these delinquent properties?
So our delinquency is around $700 million. We have targeted is between $25 to $50 million a year from the sale of delinquent properties.
Another question too, Mr. Wilson. The IMF slashed growth to 1.8%, I think it was. And I know you mentioned that we're going to meet this deficit target before.
Okay? And obviously, when you look at the actual figures on the ground, you'll see that number will be adjusted. Tourism is performing very, very well. You know, January numbers were very, very positive. You know, we expect that to continue right on through the first half of the year. And tourism is the main driver of the economy. So when IMF does their modeling, it's a global model, you know, with all kinds of different factors and so forth. But you have to look at what the actual numbers are on the ground, what the performance is. And your latest information will tell you that performance has been very strong.
What do you make of the opposition comments who accuse government of just busting its budget, too much spending, excessive spending? What do you make of those comments, those criticisms?
So I spoke about the increase in expenditure, and what we said was recurrent expenditure grew by $8 million. Capital expenditure grew by $70 million. The GFF deficit went down by $19 million. So the numbers tell the story. There's not been a run rate change in expenditure.
Are you able to provide any details into what, again, something that the Prime Minister mentioned yesterday in his statement about state-owned enterprises, and he spoke to, I don't remember the figure off the top of my head, but I think it was $100 and some million, an obligation that the government has to a number of state-owned enterprises, one or two at ZNS, Bomzera. But he mentioned a plan to try as best the government can to make them profitable and be less of a burden. Are you able to say what that could look like? I mean, he did mention that they don't want to privatize them, but are you able to say what that could look like? And if it's feasible for the government to continue to pump money into these state-owned enterprises that aren't really returning, that aren't really helping in terms of making a profit?
Well, I think in his speech, he talked about the need of many of these enterprises in terms of providing critical public service. So it's really not a question whether it's feasible, it has to be done. So for example, nobody's going to deny the need for water and sewage corporation to making sure potable water is provided to Family Islands and residents in New Providence. Or the case of Bahamas here, given the fact that we're an archipelago and we need safe, reliable air travel between the various islands. The key for us has been the issue, we've been focusing a lot on governance, improving governance of these institutions, making the board stronger, more aware through training and so forth, as well as looking at ways of leveraging relationships to get lower costs. All right, thank you.
Just to expand on what the FS had said, BJ, you would ask a question insofar as the Prime Minister's involvement. When the Ministry of Foreign Affairs receive a request for travel for a heads of government meeting, the relevant host country will send over a brief of overview of the agenda. The agenda will speak specifically to the kind of representation that is required. So for example, they would say country head plus foreign minister. So in some instances where there's a technical level, technical representatives are required to go. But the only one person could, in some instances, you can't even use Minister of Foreign Affairs. So when you see the Prime Minister do make a decision to travel anywhere, it's because the meeting agenda requires his attendance, particularly at a head of government level, or a CARICOM level, or at COP. The Prime Minister recently traveled in Africa at the non-aligned states, was entirely focused on the government trying to expand its diplomatic relationship with other African countries. And you were saying, coming out of that trip was Kenya. Another focus of these meetings as well has been dealing with the issue of blacklisting. And as you could see, we've made our success around that with yesterday's news. So the decision for the Prime Minister to go is always in the national interest and aligned with his overall government foreign policy agenda. Any other questions outside of that?
Yeah, so yesterday the Prime Minister said that the country loses nearly, I guess, 100 million through tobacco and alcohol smuggling. Are you able to give specifics on how these items are smuggled into the country?
I think the FS I think he just was given an overview of what they've been able to collect. I don't know if you want to expand on that, or that's...
Yeah, it's smuggled in the country.
Yeah.
They can smuggle. So typically, there are two main ways. One, they are hidden in containers, large-scale smuggling. So you might put a container and have it as building material, and we caught one where there was building material and there was 12 pallets of beer. They declare it building material. Most building materials are duty-free. Beer is like at 40%. All right. The other way, especially for tobacco, is they just put it in luggage. You know, and tobacco is 230% duty on tobacco, a minimum. So tobacco is a very high duty product, and so people put it in luggage and so forth, and just bring it in.
Any further questions? Tribune, you have anything?
Yeah. Are you able to say when legislation on the contributory pension scheme will be released?
So I've been advised that this month there will be a consultative process to be announced soon. I know the FS wanted to say anything about that.
The consultations start with the public sector unions next week. And then once those consultations are completed, we get comments. We go back to the AG's office for any adjustments in drafting. The hope is that by the time as the budget is presented, the legislation will be tabled.
Are you able to speak up, I guess, some of the features and who it would apply to?
So as you may not be aware, most public officers do not get a pension. And so the focus is making the pension available to all persons who are engaged, who work for the public sector. All right? So there's a misconception that most public officers have a pension, but most public officers do not receive a pension. So that's where the focus is. So we have, for example, persons who work for the school boards, local government, library service, persons who work for less than 10 years in certain jobs, they do not receive a pension. So we are moving to try to expand the safety net for our employees.
Any update on conversations between government and the Bahamas Petroleum Dealers Association? I know.
No update.
So does that mean talks between both sides have stalled? No.
I won't say it's stalled. I would say that there are no updates right now.
So just so you don't have to sit down and get back up again, I sent the trade a question asking if we know, are you able to disclose how much was spent on the entire Independence, 50th Independence celebration, and then how much was spent on the travel to the King's coronation last year?
No, I don't have this information. No, I don't have that information.
As well too, the issue at the airport with this new company is supposed to be collecting customs revenue, I think it is?
No,
Oh.
no new companies collecting customs revenue. Customs revenue goes in the consolidated fund.
Inspecting all the goods coming in.
No new companies inspecting the goods. The inspection of goods is done by customs officers.
So what is this other company that's supposed to be doing work at the airport then?
It's renovating the building on behalf of the government.
Just renovating a building.
That's all.
That's all it's doing.
It's renovating the building.
Okay.
That's it.
Could you say the name of the company?
The company name is JDM.
J-
Is the government fully compliant with the procurement act? I know, like, the portal was like launched last year, October.
So we've been publishing the names of contracts awarded. It's a work in progress. I think everybody who will say there's been vast improvement by the government. We're very serious with it. The procurement committee is in force. We've been collecting and publishing information as required by law.
I have a question. The PLP chairman would have made some comments urging PLPs to boycott the FNM chairman business. What does the Prime Minister think of that?
Well, to tell you one thing, if this had been the Progressive Party headquarters, they would have been able to provide the comment. Unfortunately, as Director of Communication, I am not allowed to speak on political matters between the chairman of the FNM and the Progressive Party. But I will have no certain. If you need to get a response from the chairman, I have no problem helping you with that one. Any other questions?
Last week, the Prime Minister would have said that the anti-gang legislation would have been released this week. Is that still going to happen with the Thursday?
It's still the intention of the government to table a anti-gang legislation. The AG's office is working on that. Hopefully by next month we'll be able to make progress on that issue.
One last thing. What is the Prime Minister's reaction to there being 4 homicide and manslaughter findings against police within the last year? I know there was one ruling just this week, and then there was like 3 last year.
I think start by saying that the Prime Minister is an advocate for. Sorry, but yes. So I want to begin by saying the Prime Minister is an advocate for justice. He believes in accountability, regardless of the persons involved in the matter. I think this is a vindication that there's a system of justice that works, and I think that the government intends to make sure that the courts that oversee these matters get the resources they need. So his view is that he is an advocate for justice, and where there's wrongdoing, that person should be held accountable regardless of who they are. If there's a pattern that exists, of course, the Prime Minister will have that conversation with the Commissioner of Police.
There are talks, I guess, suggesting that the Commissioner of Police is set to,
To the office.
Yeah, so are you able to confirm that?
I can't confirm whether or not the Commissioner of Police is confirm or deny because I don't know the answer to that question.
So are you able to say maybe like why he's been like MIA events or things that he is potentially supposed to attend?
I've been in several meetings with the Commissioner of Police over the last few months. Few weeks and days. You are aware that the Prime Minister has just expanded the amount of ACPs on the top floor. He has a number of officers that could be deployed at any time to deal with matters pertaining to the police force. There's no need to have the Commissioner of Police at every single event. But I'm sure you guys have Skippin's number, and she'll be able to give us much clarity on that issue. With that being said, I want to thank the FS for this contribution to today's press conference. We want to highlight a Bahamian today, Chef Duff. They just come and tell us about the business and also get some treats on your way out.
Hello, good day. How are you guys doing today? My name is Shakara Gardner. Firstly, I'd like to thank God for allowing me to have this opportunity to stand here today and say what it is that I do and what I have to offer. Secondly, I'd like to thank the Prime Minister's office for giving me this opportunity to stand here and speak today on just say a little small part of what it is I do. I specialize in catering services, private chef services, Airbnbs. I wouldn't like to say small business, but it's a growing business. I do cater from home. Currently, I don't have a storefront or a platform at the moment, but I'm looking into it. Also, I brought some treats today. I brought a small sample of pastries, no bake cheesecake, and the other items that I brought was dinners. I know everybody isn't big on meat, so I did a little mixture of it. One is the normal minced crawfish with the peas and rice, macaroni and potato salad. I felt that would have been a bit standard, you know. The other is just a standard baked chicken, macaroni, and potato salad as well. They're outside waiting on you guys for you to enjoy. And once again, I'm grateful for this opportunity. You know, I always had a palate for pleasing people. I always had an interest and a spirit for hospitality and getting a positive feedback from people in the food and beverage. You would go on my Facebook page, Shakara Gardner. You would find a platform and a forum of more, everything of what it is that I have to offer. You can reach me through WhatsApp. My email is shakaragardner@hotmail.com, and my cell phone number is 826-5566. Thank you guys for the support. Anyone needs any assistance, whether it may be small setups, Airbnb, small catering, you might want some private services done, boat charters, you know, I do all of that. I tend not to stray away from stuff. I like to bring everything home. Okay? So thank you guys once again for this delightful opportunity, and I look forward to my business growing.
Before I end today's press conference, I think it's important for me to, just from the Office of the Prime Minister, to say this. We respect the work that journalists do in our country and the role they play in protecting our democracy. And we want to make it clear for anyone who have doubt that there is an effort to undermine the work that you do. And we have done, in my view, a significant effort of ensuring that we reveal the curtains of government on a week-to-week basis. And so we look forward to our continued partnership with the members of the media. We respect and we understand that you have a job to do on behalf of the Bahamian people. And that is a cherished aspect of our democracy. And with that, thank you for today's presser.
Thank you.